welcome to Warhammer Workshop. My name is Amy, and I am joined, as always, from the strange planet where his space Hulk has crashed. It's JF. JF, hello.
Hi, it's okay. I have reinforcements.
Fantastic.
It's hard to tell if this focuses properly. I know the lighting's not good, but
It's
whatever.
good. It's good.
For audio listeners, I just showed off a League of Votan warrior with a jetpack.
So
It is a
good.
very clever model, by the way.
Yes. So this week's pre-orders, in case you hadn't guessed it, it's Gallowfall, the final in this season of Kill Team.
That's 4 boxes.
It is 4
Like,
boxes.
so you and I both have all 4 of those boxes.
Mhm.
What did you do with all that terrain?
I did give away one set, unfortunately, before we knew about boarding actions. So then I had to eagerly await for the third box to come. What am I doing? It's currently all in my pile of shame at the moment. That's where it is.
So I didn't really take the time to build the terrain until I learned about the Arcs of Omen and how
Sure.
they would be used for that.
Yeah.
And then I sort of lost my mind and went, this is the best thing ever, and built half of it, started painting it,
Yep.
and got distracted.
Us?
So it's half painted, waiting to be finished so I can play those Arcs of Omen games because I really want to do them. Like
Yeah.
the scenarios look so much fun.
Yeah.
But that means that I still have 2 other boxes of junk. Well, not junk, but of that
You
terrain.
have a full boarding
I'm-
action set of terrain.
I have a
that you
full
could-
spare boarding action that I could give to a friend or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
An enterprising friend because it's a lot of walls
it's a
to
lot of stuff.
do the mold lines and
Yeah.
everything and paint.
I've
and
got I have the I use all the Badger airbrush primers, and I do have like 4 different color metal ones, so that
Mhm.
might be just how I handle this situation. I don't
um,
know.
there's a way to, and I mean we've talked about this terrain in the past. There's a way of
Yeah.
doing it very quick. That's only just a bunch of metallics and dirty down rust.
Yeah.
But like an idiot, I decided no. No, I'm gonna paint this in a color and pick out some metallic bits.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a stupid idea.
Mhm.
If you're trying to go from sprue to play to game mat like as fast as possible,
Not the way.
no,
No.
that's a detour.
We'll get to the kill teams that are in this box, but I do want to talk about the terrain. Because
Yeah,
all right, so we know that the way that these have worked, right, is you get like your set of terrain, and then there's like the like the bonus sprues,
right. You
which
get a generic thing and then some thematic extras.
right, which they have released separately, at least one of them, if not 2. I don't
I
remember.
think they're released. The second one is released this week. It's on pre-order this week.
Oh, well.
Yeah, we get the Soul Shackle kills
Oh
on
yeah,
upgrade.
yeah. Oh, convenient.
The little table and things.
And then I'm sure that this one will be available in that gap that we talked about on the preview review. That gap in which all the rest of the kill teams and the annual are going to come out. I bet we'll get this last set. But this set, oh boy. It's
got
like
some fan favorites.
fan favorites. There's a lot of pods of various types.
Yes.
There's escape pods.
6
There's
of them.
I
Cryopods. I assume.
cryopods. Yes.
Not all of them functioning as designed.
No. And then there's a lot of medically tables. Ooh,
Yes. There's
really
some
good.
there's some examination tables. I'm sorry, I said 6 escape pods, but there are another 2 with opened doors, which is neat. And if you're an avid fan or you've played Tacticus, you'll recognize these pods as the quote unquote random loot crates for getting new characters in the game. So it's one of the fun things that you and I also discovered playing Darktide is how a lot of the design choices for models just translates across the properties unsoiled.
Oh yeah, like those cargo containers that were in every terrain kit back in the day.
Yes.
They are unadulterated in the game, and you can go in them, and it's great.
There's even a trike that really tells you this is what orcs use to make death trikes.
Yeah.
Which is great. There's also something something wonderful about walking right next to a Lamanrus tank. This is one of those things that makes you happy, like thinking ahead, like because Henry Cavill is going to be producer on whatever property they do, TV series, movies, whatever, with Amazon. Being that he is a fan and seeing how Games Workshop has managed to keep a stranglehold on the design aspects,
Yes.
this is going to go forward.
Yeah.
And I'm here for it. This is good. This is great. Having a good time.
Yeah. So I love this terrain set in particular. The extra bits, they're very good.
We will have use of them.
Great. So, as you already said, this is the box that has the League of Votan. So you said this is basically a warrior sprue, but with like the extra sprue of fancy, cool guys stuff.
That's the thing. Like they made it very simple. You get a warrior sprue for 10 warriors. You could build them as that. The rules allow you to just take that as your kill team.
Sure.
Neat. But then you get a bunch of upgrades. A good example, and people who don't do the video are not going to see this, but the backpack, like the jetpack portion of the jump troop version of the League of Votan dude, is just something that's added to their normal backpack. They have a normal backpack that just gets plugged on top of it, and there you go.
Smart.
And there's a slightly different body with a tactical rock so that he looks like he's leaping off of something.
Sure.
And there you go.
Love
and they
that.
do explain why they have, like, because that's one of the jokes that kept coming up. It's like a jetpack inside of a spaceship. Well, first of all, Space Hawks are enormous planetoid-sized spaceships, so there's probably some pretty big places. But they do explain, like, the way the League of Votan take care of Space Hawks is they do have outside assistance. They all have these suits with their helmets and everything. And when they encounter really heavy resistance, they just have the ship outside carve out a part of the Space Hawk. Which,
nice.
Why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't you? Why not?
Welcome to sci-fi.
Yeah.
You don't just wander around the corridors aimlessly.
Yeah.
And this is where like these guys with more mobility come in because they can do things. Anyways,
That's so good.
It's very cool. Like it's one of those things that made me almost regret selling my other League of Votan. But it's fine. I've got more now.
It's fine.
It's all good. I did blue. Now I'm doing orange. Who knows what color my next league will be?
I have put together the Beastmen, which when we saw this at Adepticon, it was so left field. It was like, oh, of course, 40k Beastmen of Chaos. Why not? I guess.
Well, we know they exist because they're in the fluff. There's 4 of them that come with what's it called with Blackstone Fortress.
Yeah.
So yeah, sure. But now we actually get a unit of it, and we get some of their fluff and some of their lore as to what do they do in Space Hawks, and basically that's where their tribes are. This is. Think of Beastmen in, say, Age of Sigmar having their tribes and all their entire society. That's what these Beastmen do,
right? But
in a Space Hawk.
I feel like so these are gonna wind up in 40k eventually, and like with the Votan, that you have a sprue that is clearly like your base sprue for these guys, and then you have the fancy cool guy upgrade sprue. The smoke grenade guy with his gas mask is utterly precious, and
I love him. He looks so goofy.
He's so goofy.
And by the way, like if you read the lore in the book, like most of these guys have names. Like these are not they're all referred to, and they're all very good.
That one of them has 3 arms.
Yes. 3 arms, and he's got 3 something else.
3 knives.
He's got 3 eyes.
Yeah.
I
He's
think.
real creepy. I like him a
Yeah.
lot. So yeah,
I like to think he had 3 legs, but there was a it was a terrible
yeah, it was a
accident.
terrible accident. Yeah, these models are great. They're so fun. I think getting more of the weird, like if we're gonna do more chaos, let's make it weird, is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Um,
it's chaos.
so also up for pre-order this weekend, we have the Arbites kill team with the very good boy. As you said, we have the Soul Shackle upgrade terrain kit. Some dice, they're fine. We've also got.
They're beautiful.
They're very nice dice. I have so many. I broke
Yes,
down and
no.
got the Vashtor dice, even though I definitely did not need more dice. But you know, I got
Dude.
2 sets of dice at Adepticon because why wouldn't I?
The flesh is strong, but the
Yeah,
will is weak.
it's that yes. So
Yeah.
also up for pre-order for Adeptus Titanicus, we have a reprint of some of their card packs. We have a bunch of the stratagem cards as well as their Open Engine War card pack, which is like Open War but it's for Titanicus, hence the engine. So that's cool. That's cool that they're reprinting cards, which is this is an important thing because if we're going to make cards like a thing in 40K,
They need
to get better about
Yeah.
not printing 5 of them and then never having them again.
They cannot be collector's items and limited editions.
No,
If
don't
that
love
is going
that.
to be a car component of the game,
So here's
at worst have a digital version available.
yeah. So I'm veering off of topic a little bit, but I've only just thought of it. So we know that we're getting the cards for the release of 10th edition.
Yes.
Do we know if we're going to get updates? Like, are they still going to have physical cards available when a codex comes out? Because
Here's my thought
know.
on that. I think they probably will in the same way that they print data cards now. And when the codex is released, well, now in 9th edition, the codex was released and came with data cards that would give you all your stratagems, psychic powers, and sometimes some other things that are specific to the army. I see no reason why when a codex comes out for 10th edition, there wouldn't also be a pack of cards that would include data cards, but also whatever else you may need, maybe a card for each detachment, things like that.
All right. I just, I'm very anxious about this. This is all very exciting, and I'm getting all riled up.
No, I get it. Like this is how I've been living my week.
Yeah. So also for pre-order from BloodBowl, we have Dribble and Drull, 2 little skinky guys, and they're real cute, as well as Withergrasp Double Drool. I feel like the dice table that we roll on for BloodBowl names is like extra weird.
Yeah, it also looks like they rolled the same number twice there.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Dribble and Drool and then Wither's Grasp Double Drool. It's Double Drool indeed, Games Workshop. Double Drool indeed.
And then we've got a whole mess of Black Library stuff, including very timely, the Great Devourer, the Leviathan Omnibus. Whole bunch of stories, books. I don't know. It's unknowable. Featuring a lot of stories about Tyranids. Fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is very rarely do I look at a Black Library book and say, yeah, I should probably get that. But I should probably get that.
Yeah, it looks pretty good.
Big Tyranid fan. So.
It's nice having it all in one place.
Yeah, you can keep your Horus Heresy. I will read about hungry bugs.
Yeah. Pilgrims of Fire is an Adeptus Sororitas novel, as if you couldn't tell from this title. Outgunned looks pretty interesting. It is about an ace pilot, and she looks badass.
She also looks like she flies a Voss pattern lightning fighter, strike fighter.
Sure does.
I have affection for having built one recently.
Yeah. And then there's a bunch of foreign language versions of books that are already out.
Foreign. Some of those are French. French is not foreign to me.
Non-English. It's foreign to the British. So
Oh yeah. Oh no, they're familiar with the French. History will tell.
Yeah. So that's the pre-orders for this week. Very exciting.
But not as exciting
Not
as.
as exciting. All right. So they have begun the faction focus articles for 10th edition.
Now, so far, as of this recording,
Yes.
we've had the Space Marine and the Tyrannid,
Surprise, surprise.
one per day.
Yes.
And a quick calculation, like, because one of the questions that was being asked between me and my brother was, well, how fast are we going to get those?
Sure.
And a quick calculation tells us that if we get them once a day,
Yeah.
as has been the very short pattern so far.
But they've done that before. Like,
Right. But if we get them once a day, they'll be done on June 7th.
all right.
Because there's a lot of them.
There's a lot.
Is it like 26, I
Yeah.
believe? If you look at the index chart that they have. So, I mean, they're starting with the ones that are going to be in the Leviathan box set.
Yep.
But if we're looking at, let's say, a summer release, if they do this until June 7th, maybe they skip weekends. Like
I'm sure they'll skip
aligns
weekends.
close to where you'd expect a release to be.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, very exciting.
Very exciting.
So, let's talk about these a little bit. I'm still very confused about a lot of things. There's a lot of keywords, JF. There's a lot of keywords. I feel like I need flashcards. I'm like back learning vocab lessons, and there's a lot going on.
Well, the keywords don't seem to be as heavy as they were in 9th edition. What we're seeing a lot is universal special rules
Yeah.
that we're only slowly learning what they mean.
Yeah.
Which is good that they're putting out these previews, because a lot of them I am learning from the preview,
Mhm.
which will make it easier to assimilate whatever's left once the rules actually come out.
Right. So it also seems to me, right? So morale in
Yes.
for those of us who are not top level competitive players / regular tournament players, morale is a thing that we try to remember to do. Right? Like,
Yes.
it's
Well,
like, yeah. Oh yeah. That's
to
a
be
thing.
fair, like my understanding of a lot of high level players, the way they deal with morale is not by remembering the morale phases, but by taking very small units so that morale isn't even an issue. And bypassing the rules is apparently how you win a game with rules.
It seems like it's going to be real important now.
Hoping so, because I play Tyranids and they seem
Well,
to
that's
be
what I'm
leaning
saying.
on
Well,
that
so
a
we
lot.
already know that if they're shaken or whatever, that they can't hold objectives or use stratagems, and isn't that exciting?
Mhm.
And yeah. So now this was the one that got me. Was I like the changes to Synapse? The way that works is good.
It's not as it's not as potent as it used to be, and probably for the best.
Yeah.
Because it used to be Synapse, don't worry about it. You don't even roll for leadership. It's not a point.
Yeah.
Now you just get a bonus.
I mean, it's a pretty good bonus. It's a whole extra die. So
Yes.
that's good. Now, the army rule Shadow in the Warp is exciting, flavorful, interesting, and as someone who plays orcs, terrifying.
That's the thing. So Shadow in the Warp, the way it works is basically the Tyranids get their own kind of little wah. They get this thing that they get to do once per battle that affects the entire game, and it's fun. And basically, it's super simple. It makes everybody on every unit in the opposing army roll for battle shock.
Yeah.
Simple enough.
Yeah.
But also not an equal distribution. Because like you mentioned, like if you're playing orcs, half your army is gonna get stunned.
Goodbye.
But if you're playing Space Marines of any flavor, what do you care?
Yeah.
Space Marines have high leadership everywhere.
Yep.
And a bunch of rules that allows them, traditionally, a bunch of rules like they shall know no fear, so they tend to not to care about these things.
Yep.
So I don't know. Like it looks like it's may make the Tyranids too potent against certain armies, but not against others. If that's one of their big army rules.
Yeah.
But then again, we don't
know. Yeah, we don't know.
Yeah, like,
but it just it
like,
struck fear into the depths of my heart.
But take orcs for example. Orcs have traditionally had mob rules.
Yeah.
But that for several editions that just made them like you add 1 to your leadership for every model above 10 or things like that. True. They always had things like the bigger your unit or the closer to your war boss, you could always sort of protect yourself against leadership roles.
That's true.
And the same thing for the Imperial Guard. Very low leadership, but if there's a commissar, he'll handle it.
Oh yeah.
So it's a cool rule. I just hope there's not too much. Like it's going to be tough it's going to be tough to see how much bubble wrapping goes around protecting other armies from it. Like, is it going to remain useful or be something that you can just forget to do and it has no influence?
Right. I should mention as we go through these that we are going to focus an awful lot on the Tyranid side just because, Tyranids, and so it's easier to sort of do a compare and contrast as opposed to Space Marines, of which we have a passing familiarity.
Well, I'm also going to say that like they released a Space Marine preview first, and one of the reasons being that Space Marines, the problem with Space Marines is that they're fairly generic and they're also boring.
That's true.
There's very little that you get from the Space Marine preview. It's exciting if you're a Space Marine player, but it doesn't really pull the covers off of what they're going to do with more unusual armies.
True.
At least not the way, say, the Tyranids do.
Yeah.
Because damn, they're unusual.
I do like that the beginning of the Space Marine preview says, so in the first of our ongoing series of 100% definitely bias-free faction spotlights, we're going to find out why the Adeptus Astartes are simply the best. So good. Yeah. So I dig, so here's some more fun keywords. So gene stealers. You're familiar. I'm familiar. There's a lot of arms.
Genes.
Very good. They have scout. They are their core ability, and they have scout 8 inches, so they can move up to 8 inches after deployment for free.
Which is going to be interesting to read what the scout rules say. Like, do they keep genes? Do they keep the unit from getting within 9 inches of deployment zone of other units? Like we've seen in the past, but this is probably going to be better explained in the actual rule.
Sure.
But this is fun. This is neat. They do lose their move and charge ability, which they used to have.
Yeah. But they've got attack rerolls. Which, this is an interesting thing. So this is another interesting rule. And this being applied. This is what I'm talking about. So Vanguard Predator. Each time a model in this unit makes an attack, re-roll a wound roll of 1. If the target is within range of an objective marker, you can re-roll the wound roll instead. So I like that we've got rules that are based on objective holding.
Also a rule that instructs or informs the player about what to expect as a roll for this unit.
Yeah.
Gene stealers are going to be good at clearing objectives.
Yes.
Maybe not holding them because they don't necessarily have the greatest armor. They're 5+, 5+. They have 2 wounds, but we'll see how weapons work. But I'm not holding my breath that they can necessarily withstand a lot of shots.
Right.
But
and in an edition where they have already talked about how they have taken away a lot of armor penetration, they have AP -2.
Yes. and 4 attacks each at weapon skill 2+.
Yeah.
Nothing to scoff at. Like
No.
they're good. Like they will tear things apart. They're
Mm-hmm.
just not necessarily good at just sitting on an objective. So you want them to go to an objective, clear it, move to the next while something
Somebody
else
else
moves
comes
into.
in. Yeah.
And that's interesting.
It is interesting.
There's also when you take into account like how Battle Shock works, about removing the power to control objectives. These seem to be leaning a lot on how you control objectives, which indicates that they're probably going to lean a lot more into winning through objectives rather than through murder.
Way more fun.
It does make for a far more dynamic game.
Yeah.
Add
Because
to that
it's a lot
the
harder.
gambits.
It's a lot harder to buy your way into winning. You can't just pick the most powerful and count on wiping out your opponent necessarily.
Yeah. It means you need to actually use the battlefield and move around the battlefield, which makes those new transport rules more relevant, more interesting. This is what I'm saying. Like, there seems to be a lot of forethought about how everything kind of links together puzzle piece wise.
Yeah.
Now, we also get a preview of Swarmlord, which
sure
is a
do.
massive disappointment stat-wise, but he's got some fun rules.
This was the part at which I started to get overwhelmed by keywords. And it's just because we don't know what any of them mean that I was like, what is any of this? I don't understand. No, I don't understand because we don't have the book yet. But I was like, it's just so many words in bold.
A lot of them, like, there's a couple of things that are very interesting. Like, so he's got a range attack, Synaptic Pulse. It's a psychic attack, and he's got Torrent. And I don't think we've seen Torrent yet.
Nope.
I suppose we'll learn soon.
Mm-hmm.
An interesting one is melee weapon, Bone Sabers, twin-linked melee weapons.
Twin-linked.
Why not?
Why not?
We haven't seen twin-linked in a couple of editions.
That's
what
true.
does it do now? Is it rerolls again?
Unknowable.
Its core ability is Deadly Demise D3. That's when it dies, it sort of does a thing.
Sure.
And it's a leader.
Yeah.
That means it can join units, I think.
Yeah.
I'd have to go back into some of the other rule previews. They do explain what leader is. And it's got its faction ability, Shadow to Warp Synapse. And then it's got some neat rules on how it manipulates CPs. Like, you get one extra CP per command phase if he's your warlord. And why wouldn't he be your warlord?
Yeah.
But you can also pick at any time during the game one ability from your opponent and have that cost an extra CP. And that ability will cost that extra CP for the rest of the game from that point on.
Yep.
Which I really kind of hope that there's rules for Tau that if they're paying for Overwatch, because they probably rely on Overwatch a lot.
Yeah.
But I suspect like there's certain ways to like
they can just build
move
it in.
around
They
that.
don't have to necessarily make it they could take away the payment.
Well, one of the things that's interesting is that, let's say perhaps Overwatch isn't a core ability. Maybe it's an ability that they give some units and it doesn't have, like, it's not a stratagem. So the way they're building things now makes it more interesting and more flexible that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I don't have a Swarmlord yet, but and then they do talk about adapting certain weapons so that they fit more with the new canon of how vehicles work, such as the Rupture Cannon is now a massive strength 18.
AP minus 4, 2d6 damage. Whew.
In 2 attacks, like on a BS of 3+, which I think is better than what we've traditionally seen from beast weapons.
Yeah.
But also, if it doesn't move, I think it gets a bonus to its ballistic skill. So that's a fairly reliable 2 strength 18 shots.
So good. It adds 1 to the hit roll if it remains stationary.
Fun. One of the things that's been interesting in both these previews, though, is seeing the stratagems. How, first of all, I love how the stratagems are worded now.
Mm-hmm.
The way they describe, like, there's a cost. There's a very not as quite as much flavor text, and then they tell you when to use it, what it targets, and what the effect is, and
Yeah.
that's great.
Mm-hmm.
And for the Tyranids, for anyone interested, it's an updated Endless Swarm stratagem. If you've played Tyranids and you've used the Endless Swarm card, it's so good because it just brought back units. In this case, it can. This is another thing that's
This is
interesting
really good.
because basically it allows you to bring back D3+3 destroyed models for a unit. Awesome. A unit that has Endless Multitude, which are Termagants, Harmagants, Gargoyles, and Neurogons, and which is already pretty good. However, if you have two units that are within Synapse range in your army,
Mm-hmm.
then you can do it for 2 units.
Yeah.
So if you're just doing it for one random unit that's not in Synapse, then it's up to 6 models. Otherwise, it can be up to 12 models. And that's
Oh, that's a lot.
And that's 12 models that don't tend to get battle shocked quite as easily.
Yeah. So now think about what that means for things like Necrons. Right? Like,
Because Necrons, they'll be back. And not to leave the Space Marines alone, they do the one that we get from them is only in Depth's Duty, and which is, if I remember clearly, it's basically just being able to attack after you were killed, which is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
This is only in the fight phase.
Yeah.
But still, if you have your assault marines and they all have like 4 attacks with power weapons and whatever, and they get their asses summarily kicked, they can kick back, and that's
until the end of the phase. Each time a model in your unit is destroyed, if it hasn't fought, it can fight after the attacking model's unit has finished making its attacks, and then it's removed.
And if you do this with an appropriately strong unit, you can do some sacrificial alpha strike stuff for that. It's like, oh, this unit is going to die, but it is taking out something important with it. And again, more dynamic gameplay. Yeah.
Good stuff. We do get Gilliman's card, which is very full of text.
Yeah, but he's a Primarch.
I mean, he is, but it's just
he's only got one side, right? It's the Land Raider has 2 sides to his card.
Yeah, it does. But that's okay.
Which is good because it gives us an idea of how war gear options function.
Yes, it does. Whew.
So theoretically, by the time this episode comes out, there should be a few more of these.
There should be there should
previews.
be 2 probably. So we know Chaos Space Marines are up next because they have told us, and that is very exciting to me personally.
How excited are you about that?
I'm very excited. They're not going to tell me the things I really want to know, though. They're not. No. And that's okay.
I mean, we're getting vague hints at how detachments will work by seeing what some of the special detachment rules are.
Yeah.
But still haven't got a complete portrait of how detachment will function.
Yeah. It's still to be seen, but probably soon, I guess. So, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
I could talk about this forever.
We will come back to it, I am sure, because quite frankly, between now and 10th, there's probably not going to be a whole lot else.
Now, there is one thing that I'm curious. Like, we'll see if it pans out.
Sure.
Because so far, we've had in order Space Marines, then Tyranids.
Yes.
And we're told the next one is Chaos Space Marine.
Yes.
Now, at Warhammer Fest, we were shown a screenshot basically of the index card sets that we were going to get.
Yes.
Which are in order for the 3 first: Space Marine, Tyranids, and Chaos Space Marines.
Huh.
And coincidence, perhaps.
Maybe.
Coincidence.
But
if it's a pattern, that makes it a lot of fun because then you can kind of predict when you're going to see which preview.
Huh.
I'm sure it's a coincidence.
Yes, probably. It's just
sadly. Because, well, sadly, I mean, that would mean that the next one would be Blood Angels, then Black Templar, and Astra Militarum.
Oh yeah,
There
they're not.
isn't
They hopefully will not get just in an Imperium rut for a little bit.
which is fine.
They could rotate. It'll be fine.
Now, one thing just a quick mention
Sure.
for anyone that wants to be excited about things. One thing we never really took the time to look at is in that list of indexes,
Mm-hmm.
we do get Imperial agents. Considering that we currently don't have Codex Imperial agents, one can only assume that this is all the Navy Breachers, the Arbitus, and all that.
Probably
nice of them.
Yeah, I mean maybe some of that Inquisition that we saw in the preview.
Maybe. But does that mean they get their own detachment?
It's unknowable.
It's unknowable.
It's unknowable. We're just throwing things at the wall and seeing what sticks. No one knows.
The Nurgle stuff sticks.
It slides.
To any surface.
Yeah.
It's somehow both slippery and adhesive.
Sticky.
Anyway, that's pretty much it
Okay.
on my side.
Good. So I'm sure that we will, we're going to try to not exclusively talk about 40K, but I have a feeling that that's just going to be sort of the attitude of things around here for a while.
I have a feeling Games Workshop is going to talk
that's what
a
I'm
lot
saying.
about 40K too.
Yeah. We're in it.
Yeah. We're just following the tide.
So, if you have anything that you want to chat with us about, all of our social media information is in the show description. And until next week, happy gaming. Materials shown in this video are provided fully or in part by Games Workshop for promotional purposes. If you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping us a like and subscribing. Thanks for watching.